The space station floated at the edge of known space. Nothing ever happened here. Lieutenant Kale looked at his screens and saw the same thing he saw every day. Empty space, dead stars, rocks floating in the darkness. He had been doing this job for 3 months and he was very bored. His 6 legs tapped against the floor. His antenna moved slowly back and forth. Outside the window, space looked completely black. No ships, no signals, nothing at all. Kale wondered why they even needed this station. Nobody came out here. Nobody wanted to come out here. Then the alarm started screaming. Kyle jumped in his chair. His 4 eyes went wide. The screen in front of him showed something impossible. A ship, a real ship, moving fast, coming straight toward the station. His hand shook as he pressed buttons to get more information. "Commander Thren," he called out. His voice sounded scared even through the translator. "We have a ship. Unknown ship. It is coming right at us." Commander Thren moved across the room. Her long body twisted like a snake. She looked at the screen with her yellow eyes. Her scales changed color from green to dark purple. That meant she was worried. "That cannot be right," she said. "No ships come through this sector." "Check the systems. Maybe the computer is broken." Kale checked everything. The computer was not broken. The ship was real. He looked at the data and his blood went cold. The ship was using old technology. Very old technology. The engines burned chemicals. Actual fire and fuel. Like ancient machines from thousands of years ago. Nobody used engines like that anymore. "Commander," he said slowly, "the ship is using chemical rockets. And nuclear power. But not for weapons. For making electricity. This technology is older than our great-grandparents." Thren stared at the screen. Chemical rockets. That technology was in museums. Children learned about it in history class. No modern species would use something so simple and slow. But the ship was moving. It was real. It was coming closer. "Show me the ship," Thren ordered. "I want to see it." Kale turned on the cameras. They pointed at the approaching ship. When the image appeared on the screen, everyone in the control room became very quiet. The ship looked strange. It had sharp angles and flat surfaces. No curves, no smooth edges, just straight lines and metal plates. White and silver colors covered most of it. There were symbols painted on the side. Strange writing that the computer could not read. And a flag. Red and white stripes with white stars on blue. Thren felt something in her memory. Something old. Something from stories she heard as a child. Stories about ancient times. Stories about wars. Stories about a species that everyone thought was gone. "Search the database," she said quietly. "Search the old files. The secret files. Look for ships that match this design." Kale did not want to search the secret files. Those files were locked for a reason. They contained information about dangerous things. About wars from long ago. About species that no longer existed. But Commander Thren had given an order, so he searched. The computer took a long time. It searched through millions of files. Then it made a sound. A single file appeared. The file was very old. It was marked with the highest security level. Kale felt afraid when he saw how old it was. 40,000 years. The file was 40,000 years old. The computer spoke in a flat voice. "Match confirmed. Ship design matches historical records. Species identification human. Current status extinct. Last seen 39,847 years ago." Thren felt her scales go cold. Humans, the ghost warriors. The mysterious species that fought in the great wars and then disappeared. Everyone knew the stories. Humans were brave. Humans were dangerous. Humans helped defeat the great enemy that tried to destroy the galaxy, and then humans vanished. Their homeworld was destroyed. Their people died. No one had seen a human in 40,000 years, but humans are dead, Kale whispered. "Everyone knows that." "They are gone." "Then explain that ship," Thren said. She pointed at the screen. The human ship was getting closer. It did not slow down. It did not turn away. It just kept coming, like it had every right to be there. A message appeared. Someone on the ship wanted to talk. Kyle looked at Thren. She nodded. He opened the communication channel. A voice came through. It sounded strange. Rough and flat. Not musical like most voices. Not clicking or whistling. Just plain and simple. It spoke in the old trade language, the one that galactic ships used thousands of years ago. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the exploration ship Liberty. We picked up your distress signal. Do you need help? Kale checked his systems very quickly. No distress signal. The station had not sent any signal. He looked at Thren with confusion. Commander, we did not send a distress signal, he said quietly. Thren understood immediately. The station did have a distress beacon, a very old one. It was installed 40,000 years ago during the Great Wars. It used radio frequencies that modern ships could not hear. Those frequencies were abandoned long ago. Modern technology did not even look for them, but someone who was alive 40,000 years ago would know those frequencies. Someone who built their technology 40,000 years ago would still be listening for them. Thren felt her hearts beat faster. She looked at the ship on the screen. The impossible ship. The ship that should not exist. The ship from a species that was supposed to be extinct. She pressed the button to respond. This is Commander Thren of the Rexian Coalition Monitoring Station. Captain Morrison, your ship matches records of an extinct species. Please explain how you are here. There was a pause. Then the human voice came back. It sounded surprised, maybe even amused. Extinct? That is news to us, Commander. We have been gone for a while. We went on a long mission into deep space. Time moves differently when you travel near light speed. For us, it has been 35 years. I guess for you it has been longer. We just got back and started looking for old coalition signals. Seems like we missed a lot. Kale made a choking sound. Time dilation. Relativistic travel. When you traveled very fast, close to the speed of light, time slowed down for you. But for everyone else, time kept moving normally. The humans had been traveling for 35 years. But for the rest of the galaxy, 40,000 years had passed. 40,000 years, Thren said out loud. She could not help it. Captain Morrison, it has been 40,000 years. Your species has been declared extinct. Your home world was destroyed in the war. Silence. Long silence. When the human spoke again, his voice was different. Quieter. Sadder. We knew Earth might be hit. That is why we launched 7 survey ships. We were supposed to come back in a few hundred years and help rebuild. I guess we took too long. Thren and Kale looked at each other. 7 ships. The humans had sent 7 ships into deep space. 7 ships full of people who thought they were coming home. 7 ships that did not know their entire species was gone. Captain Morrison, Thren said carefully. How many people are on your ship? 43 souls, Morrison answered. We are getting tired of each other after 35 years in a tin can. Permission to dock, Commander? We could use some fresh supplies and a history lesson. Thren looked at the human ship. She thought about the old stories. Stories about humans who never gave up. Humans who fought impossible battles. Humans who survived when everyone else died. The species that the great enemy feared most, and now they were back. Permission granted, Captain Morrison, she said. Welcome back. Welcome home. Commander Thren waited by the docking port. She had never felt this nervous before. Her scales kept changing colors without her control. Green to purple to dark blue. Behind her, Kyle stood very still. His antennae were pointing straight up, which meant he was scared. They could hear the human ship connecting to the station. Metal scraped against metal. Air hissed through the tubes. The docking computer made happy sounds, confirming that the seal was good. In a few moments, the door would open. In a few moments, they would see a human, a real living human, something that should not exist. Thren had read the old files while waiting, the secret files about humans. They were classified as Category 7. That was the highest danger rating, not because humans had super weapons, not because they had special powers, but because they never stopped. They never gave up. They survived things that would kill any other species. They adapted. They persisted. They refused to die. The great enemy, the precursors, had tried to destroy the humans first, before any other species. The precursors were smart. They knew the humans were dangerous, not because humans were strong, but because humans gave other species hope. Humans showed everyone that you could fight back, that you could win. The door opened with a soft hiss. Captain Jake Morrison stepped through. He was tall, about 2 meters. He had dark brown skin and short black hair that was starting to turn gray. His body was shaped like most bipedal species. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Nothing special. But his eyes were different. They looked straight forward, not to the sides. Predator eyes. Hunter eyes. Eyes that focused on one thing and did not let go. He smiled. The expression showed his teeth, which was strange. Most species did not show teeth unless they were threatening someone. But the human smile seemed friendly. Warm even Commander Thren, I assume, he said. His voice sounded rough but kind. Thank you for letting us dock. It has been a long trip. He held out his hand. Thren remembered from the files. This was a human greeting. You were supposed to grasp the hand. She reached out with one of her forward tentacles and wrapped it around his hand. His skin was warm. His grip was firm but not too strong. Controlled. Everything about him seemed controlled. Welcome to the station, Captain Morrison, Thren said. I must tell you something. Your arrival has caused a big problem. The Coalition thinks all humans are dead. We will need to contact our leaders immediately. Morrison nodded. His smile faded. I understand. We need to know what happened, all of it. The files on our ship only go up to the day we launched. Everything after that is blank for us. Thren led him to the conference room. Kale followed behind, trying not to stare. More humans came through the docking port. Men and women of different colors and sizes. They all wore the same uniform. Blue with patches on the shoulders. They looked tired. 35 years on a ship would make anyone tired. In the conference room, Thren pulled up the historical records. Morrison sat down and watched the screen. His face did not move much, but Thren could see his jaw getting tighter. His hands formed into fists. The precursors attacked Earth 3 months after your ship launched, Thren explained. They used planet-killer weapons, burned the atmosphere, melted the surface. By the time the attack ended, nothing was alive. The Coalition tried to help, but we were too late. Morrison stared at the images of Earth, the beautiful blue and green planet in the before pictures, the dead gray ball in the after pictures. He did not cry. He just stared. Finally, he spoke. How long did the war last after that? 300 years, Thren said quietly. The precursors almost won. They destroyed many worlds, killed billions, but the Coalition fought back. We won eventually, but the cost was terrible. Morrison looked at her. Did we help? Did humanity help win? Thren felt her scales warm with emotion. Yes, humans helped very much. You showed us how to fight when things seemed hopeless. You taught us to never surrender. Even after Earth died, we remembered what humans did. We remembered that you never gave up. That memory helped us keep fighting. Morrison was quiet for a long time. Then he asked the question Thren knew was coming. How many humans are left? Thren looked at Kale. He looked back at her. Neither wanted to say it. Finally, Thren spoke. 43. The 43 people on your ship. You said there were 7 ships. The other 6 are still out there somewhere. When they come back, there might be 300 humans total. Maybe a few hundred more if those ships had children during the journey. Morrison put his head in his hands. 300. Out of billions. 300 survivors of an entire species. The last humans in the galaxy. After a long silence, he looked up. His eyes were wet, but no tears fell. The other ships. Do you know where they are? Kale stepped forward. He had been checking the database. Captain, we have the original flight plans. All 7 ships filed their routes with the Coalition before launching. We know where they went. The problem is they are very far away, and they are using the same slow engines as your ship. Morrison stood up. How long until they come back naturally? The nearest ship, Columbia, will return in 78 years, Kale said. The farthest ship, Defiant, will take almost 200 years. Morrison shook his head. Too long. We need to find them. We need to bring them back now. They are looking for Earth, looking for home. Someone needs to warn them. Someone needs to tell them what happened. Thren understood. The other human ships would come back expecting to find their planet, their families, their civilization. Instead, they would find nothing. Just like Morrison had found nothing. That kind of shock could destroy people. Captain, Thren said carefully, the Coalition has faster ships now. Much faster. We use technology that can cross the galaxy in months instead of years. If the Coalition agrees to help, we could reach your ships quickly. Bring them back. Bring them home, Morrison repeated. The word sounded bitter. We do not have a home anymore. Earth is gone, then we give you a new home, Thren said. The Coalition has many worlds. Empty worlds that need people. Worlds where humans could live. Where you could rebuild. It will not be Earth, but it could be something. Morrison looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Thank you, Commander. That is more than I expected. More than we deserve. You deserve more than we can give, Thren said. Your species saved the galaxy. The least we can do is help you survive. Later that night, after Morrison returned to his ship, Thren sent her report to Coalition Command. She wrote about the impossible ship, about the humans who traveled through time, about the survivors who just learned their entire world was dead. But she also wrote about something else. Something she saw in Captain Morrison's eyes. Despite the grief, despite the loss, despite learning that 40,000 years had passed and everyone he knew was dead, the human had not broken. He had asked about his people. He had made plans to find them. He had looked forward, not backward. Thren understood then what the old files meant. Why the precursors had feared humans so much. It was not about weapons or technology. It was about something deeper, something in the human spirit that refused to accept defeat. The precursors had destroyed Earth. They had killed billions of humans. They had tried to erase humanity from the galaxy, but they had failed, because 43 humans were still alive, and 6 more ships were coming home. Humanity had survived, against all odds, against all logic, against death itself. The species that refused to die was still here, still fighting, still hoping, and Thren found herself hoping too. Hoping that the Coalition would help, hoping that humanity would survive, hoping that something beautiful could grow from this tragedy. She sent the report and waited for a response. Somewhere above her, the Liberty floated in space, a tiny ship carrying the last ember of a dead species. But embers could start fires, and fires could spread. Maybe, Thren thought, humanity was not dead. Maybe they were just beginning again. The council chamber on the Coalition flagship was crowded. Leaders from every major species had gathered. Some had bodies made of crystal, some looked like giant insects, some floated in tanks of liquid, some were just clouds of gas held together by force fields. They all stared at the hologram floating above the table. The hologram showed the Liberty, the impossible human ship. High Chancellor Vexus tapped his crystal fingers on the table. The sound was like glass breaking. He was made entirely of living silicon, and his body glowed with inner light. He was also very impatient. "Let me understand this correctly," he said. "A human ship showed up at one of our stations, using ancient technology, after 40,000 years, and we simply let them dock." Ambassador Lith shifted her long body. She was Vrexian, like Commander Thren. She had been reading the old files for 3 days straight. What she found had given her nightmares. Chancellor Commander Thren followed all proper procedures. And we have history with humans. They were our allies during the Precursor Wars. They helped save the galaxy. "That was 40,000 years ago," said General Krax. His mandibles clicked with anger. The Hyvrak were a warrior species. His compound eyes reflected light like tiny mirrors. "We have no treaties with humans now. No agreements, no legal basis for this situation, because we thought they were all dead," Ambassador Lith pointed out. "We cannot have treaties with a species that does not exist, but they do exist," Vexus said coldly. "Which means they hid from us. One ship survived. What else did they hide?" "They did not hide," Lith said. She brought up images of Earth, the beautiful planet before the attack, the dead world after. They launched 7 ships before Earth was destroyed. Survey missions into deep space. The ships were traveling at near light speed. Time moved slowly for them. They did not hide. They just traveled while the universe aged around them. The council members looked at the images. Some had never seen Earth. They only knew it from history books. A blue and green world that once held billions of humans. Now it was just a ball of melted rock. Dead. Silent. Empty. During the Precursor Wars, Ambassador Lith continued, our intelligence agencies studied human military tactics. What they found scared them. Humans do not just fight wars. They survive them. They thrive in them. Their entire history is one long story of surviving impossible situations. When they reached space, they brought that survival instinct with them. She showed battle recordings. Old videos from the war. The council watched as human soldiers defended positions that should have fallen. Human ships fought on even when their hulls were breached and half their crew was dead. Human colonies survived on worlds that barely had air to breathe. The precursors called them the species that refuses to end, Lith said quietly. That was not a compliment. That was a warning. The precursors were afraid of humans, afraid of what they represented. Hope, resistance. The idea that you could fight back and win. General Krax leaned forward. His antenna twitched. So the precursors destroyed Earth to kill that hope, to show everyone that resistance was pointless. Yes, Lith confirmed. They burned Earth to ash. They wanted to prove that even humans could be destroyed, that even the species that refuses to end could end. But they failed, said a new voice. Everyone turned to look. Captain Morrison stood in the doorway. He wore his blue uniform. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard. Because we are still here. Security had brought him to the council meeting. Morrison walked to the table and looked at each leader in turn. He did not look afraid. He did not look ashamed. He looked determined. Captain Morrison, Vexus said, you were not invited to this meeting. I know, Morrison replied, but you are talking about my species, about my people. I thought I should be here. Vexus considered this. Then he nodded. Very well. Tell us, Captain. What do you want? Morrison took a deep breath. I want to find the other ships, my people. There are 6 more human vessels out there in deep space. They are still traveling. They think they are going home. They think Earth is waiting for them. Someone needs to find them. Someone needs to tell them the truth before they waste more decades looking for a world that does not exist. And if we help you find them, General Krax asked, what then? Where will you go? What will you do? Morrison looked at the images of dead Earth. We will survive, he said simply. That is what humans do. We will find a new home. We will rebuild. We will continue. The precursors destroyed our world, but they did not destroy us. 40,000 years later, we are still here, and we will still be here 40,000 years from now. The council chamber was silent. Every leader was thinking the same thing. The humans had lost everything. Their world, their civilization, their entire species except for a few hundred survivors. And yet this human stood before them talking about the future, about survival, about rebuilding. Ambassador Lith spoke first. We should help them. The coalition was founded to protect species from extinction, to give refuge to those who have nowhere else to go. Humans are refugees now, the last survivors of a dead world. If we do not help them, what does that say about us? It says we are afraid, General Krax said, but he did not sound angry. He sounded thoughtful. We are afraid of humans because we remember what they can do, how they fight, how they never stop. But maybe that fear is exactly why we should help them, because if we do not, we prove that the precursors were right. That hope can be destroyed. That resistance is pointless. Vexus glowed brighter. His crystalline body refracted light into rainbow patterns. Very well. The coalition will help. We will send ships to find the other human vessels. We will bring them back. We will provide worlds for settlement. Consider this our debt to the species that helped save us. Morrison closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were wet. Thank you, he said. His voice was rough. Thank you for giving us a chance. But there are conditions, Vexus continued. We will monitor your ships. We will watch your people. Not because we do not trust you, but because we must protect the coalition. Some species will fear humanity's return. Some will see you as a threat. We must be careful. I understand, Morrison said. We will cooperate fully. You are giving us more than we expected, more than we deserve. You deserve more than we can give, Ambassador Lith said softly, but we will do our best. After the meeting, Morrison walked back to the docking bay. He felt lighter somehow. The weight on his chest was still there. Earth was still dead. Billions of humans were still gone. But there was hope now. The coalition would help. The other ships would be found. Humanity would survive. As he approached the Liberty, he saw his crew waiting. They looked at him with questions in their eyes. He smiled. It was a real smile this time. Not forced, not fake, real good news, he told them. The coalition is going to help us. We are going to find the other ships. We are going to bring everyone home. And we are going to rebuild. The crew cheered. Some cried. Some hugged each other. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Bennett walked up to Morrison. She had tears running down her face, but she was smiling. We made it, Jake, she said. Against all odds. We made it. Morrison put his arm around her shoulders. Yeah, Sarah, we made it. And we are going to keep making it. That is what humans do. Somewhere in the council chamber, Ambassador Lith was reading the last page of the historical files. The page that nobody else had noticed. A footnote from the Precursor Wars. A warning that the precursors had carved into their last ship before they fell. Beware the species that weaponizes hope. Lith looked out the window at the Liberty, the small human ship floating in space, the last ember of a dead species, and she understood what the warning meant. Humans did not just have hope. They spread it. They shared it. They made others believe that impossible things were possible. That was their real weapon. Not guns, not ships, not technology. Hope. The belief that tomorrow could be better than today, that you could survive the worst and still build something beautiful. And watching the humans celebrate on their tiny ship, Lith felt that hope spreading to her. She believed now. Believed that humanity would survive. Believed that something good could come from this tragedy. The precursors had been right to fear that. Hope was dangerous. Hope was powerful. Hope could change everything, and humanity was bringing it back to the galaxy. The Coalition flagship moved through space faster than light. In its docking bay, the Liberty looked tiny. Like a toy boat next to a cruise ship, Captain Morrison stood in the observation deck of the flagship, watching the stars blur past. Beside him stood Commander Thren. They were hunting for the Columbia, the second human ship. According to the old records, she should be about 15 light years from her turnaround point. With the Coalition's faster-than-light engines, they would reach her in 3 months. For the Columbia, only days would have passed since she received the signal. Morrison had sent the message himself, broadcast on the old human frequencies. The message was simple. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Liberty. Emergency situation. All human ships respond. Return to Coalition space immediately. Do not continue to Earth. Repeat. Do not go to Earth. The Columbia had responded. Her captain, Nathan Cruz, had sounded confused, worried. But he had agreed to stop and wait. Now Morrison was racing to meet him, to tell him the truth, to explain that Earth was gone. You are thinking about what you will say, Thren observed. Her scales shifted from green to blue. Morrison nodded. How do you tell someone their entire world is dead? How do you explain that 40,000 years passed while they were sleeping? I have been trying to find the right words for 3 months. I still do not have them. There are no right words, Thren said gently. You can only tell the truth, and then you help them survive it. Morrison looked at his reflection in the window. He looked older. The last 3 months had been hard. Learning about the war, learning about all the species that died, learning about the centuries of suffering after Earth fell. He felt like he was carrying the weight of 40,000 years. My crew is handling it better now, he said. Dr. Collins has been running therapy sessions. People are starting to accept what happened. Starting to look forward instead of back. But it still hurts. Every day it hurts, that is good, Thren said. Hurt means you are still alive. Still feeling. The day it stops hurting is the day you should worry. Morrison smiled a little. You are wise, Commander. I am old, Thren corrected. I have lived long enough to learn that survival is not about avoiding pain. It is about carrying pain and still moving forward. An alarm chimed softly. The navigation computer announced they were approaching the coordinates. Morrison felt his stomach tighten. Time to face another group of survivors. Time to break more hearts. The Columbia appeared on the screens. She looked exactly like the Liberty. Same design. Same engines. Same white and silver hull with the American flag painted on the side. She was drifting in space, waiting. Morrison could imagine the confusion on board. The questions. The fear. He opened a communication channel. Columbia, this is Captain Morrison. Permission to come aboard. We need to talk face-to-face, a voice answered. It sounded suspicious. Morrison, this is Cruz. What is going on? Why did you tell us not to go to Earth? And what is that ship you are on? That is not human technology. I know, Morrison said. I will explain everything. Please let me come aboard. Long pause. Then Cruz spoke again. All right, you have permission to dock. But Morrison, this better be good. Morrison took a shuttle over to the Columbia. Thren came with him. And Ambassador Lith. They wanted humans to know that the Coalition was serious about helping. That this was not a trick or a trap. Captain Nathan Cruz was waiting at the airlock. He was a big man with red hair and a suspicious expression. Behind him stood his crew. 48 people, all looking worried. They had been traveling for 32 years. They thought they were almost home. Cruz looked at Thren and Lith. His eyes went wide. What are those things? Morrison, what is happening? These are our allies, Morrison said quietly. They are members of the Galactic Coalition. They have been helping us. Cruz, we need to talk. Somewhere private. Cruz took them to the captain's ready room. It was small and cramped. exactly like Morrison's room on the Liberty. Cruz sat down heavily. His hands were shaking. "Tell me," he demanded. "Tell me what is going on." Morrison told him. All of it, the time dilation. The 40,000 years. The precursor attack on Earth. The war that lasted for centuries. The death of human civilization. Cruz listened without interrupting. His face got paler and paler. When Morrison finished, Cruz just sat there, silent, staring at nothing. Finally he spoke. "Gone. All of it. Everyone." "Not everyone," Morrison said. "We are still here. The Liberty crew, your crew, and 4 more ships out there somewhere. The Coalition is helping us find them. We are bringing everyone back. All the survivors. We are going to stay together." Cruz looked up. His eyes were red. For what? To be the last humans in the galaxy? To watch our species die out? To rebuild, Morrison said firmly. To survive. To show the galaxy that humanity is not finished. We lost our world, Cruz. We lost everything we knew. But we are still here. We are still alive. And as long as we are alive, humanity has a future. Ambassador Lythe spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft. "Captain Cruz, the Coalition has offered you worlds. Empty worlds where humans can settle. Where you can build new cities. New homes. It will not be Earth, but it can be something. A new beginning." Cruz looked at her. At her long serpentine body. Her scales. Her alien face. "You would do that for us? Your species helped save the galaxy," Lythe said. "You fought when others gave up. You showed us that resistance was possible. We owe you more than we can ever repay. This is the least we can do." Cruz put his head in his hands. For a long time he did not move. Morrison waited. He remembered feeling the same way. The shock. The disbelief. The crushing weight of loss. You had to work through it. You could not rush it. When Cruz finally looked up, his eyes were hard. "All right. We will come back. We will join you. But Morrison, we need a purpose. We need something to work toward. We cannot just drift through space feeling sorry for ourselves." Morrison smiled. "We are calling it Operation Phoenix, rising from the ashes. We are going to find all the human ships, bring everyone together, build a new colony, a new civilization. We are going to make sure humanity survives, not just for a few years, but forever." Cruz nodded slowly. "Phoenix, I like it. When do we start?" "Right now," Morrison said. "The Coalition has already sent ships to find the Discovery and the Constitution. We will find the Enterprise and the Freedom next. The Defiant is the farthest out, but we will reach her eventually. Within a year, all 7 ships will be together. All the humans. All the survivors." Cruz stood up. He held out his hand. Morrison shook it. Then Cruz turned to Thren and Lythe. "Thank you, both of you, for helping us, for giving us hope." Thren's scales warmed to a golden color. "You are welcome, Captain Cruz. Welcome back. Welcome home." Over the next few weeks, the Columbia crew adjusted to the news. There were tears. There was anger. There was grief. But there was also determination. The same determination Morrison had seen in his own crew. The human ability to look at disaster and decide to keep going anyway. One night, Morrison stood in the observation deck watching both human ships floating in space. The Liberty and the Columbia. 2 small vessels carrying the future of humanity. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Bennett joined him. "We are really doing this," she said. "We are actually going to rebuild." Morrison nodded. "Yes, we are going to rebuild. It will take generations, maybe thousands of years. But we will do it. Because that is what humans do. We survive, we adapt, we endure." Sarah smiled. "The precursors tried to kill us. They burned our world. They thought they could end humanity. But they forgot something." "What did they forget?" Morrison asked. Sarah looked at the ships. At the stars beyond. At the vast galaxy waiting for them. They forgot that humanity is not a place. It is not a planet. It is an idea. The idea that tomorrow can be better. That you can survive today and build something beautiful tomorrow. As long as that idea lives, humanity lives. Morrison felt tears in his eyes. He did not try to hide them. "You are right. Earth is gone. But we are still here. And we carry Earth with us. In our memories. In our hearts. In everything we do. We are humanity now, all of us. And we will make sure it continues." They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, 4 more human ships were traveling through the dark. 4 more groups of survivors who did not know yet that they were the last. But soon they would know. Soon they would all come together, and then humanity would begin again. The species that refused to end was keeping its promise. They were still here, still fighting, still hoping, and they would never stop. 8 months had passed since Morrison found the Columbia. The Coalition had located all 7 human ships. They were bringing them together at a neutral station near the edge of Coalition space. Morrison stood in the docking bay watching the last ship arrive. The Defiant. She looked worn and tired like all the human ships. Like all the human survivors, Captain Lisa Chen stepped off the Defiant. She looked angry. Her short black hair was messy. Her uniform was wrinkled. She walked straight up to Morrison and grabbed his shirt. "You better have a damn good reason for this, Morrison," she said through clenched teeth. "We were 3 years from Earth, 3 years, and you made us turn around." Morrison looked her in the eyes. "Earth is gone, Lisa. The precursors destroyed it 40,000 years ago. If you had kept going, you would have found nothing but a dead rock." Chen let go of his shirt. Her anger drained away. She looked suddenly very small, very tired. 40,000 years. Morrison put his hand on her shoulder. "I know, it is hard. But we are all here now. All 7 ships. 302 humans. We are the last, Lisa, but we are together." Chen looked around the docking bay. She saw humans everywhere. People from different ships meeting each other, hugging, crying, talking. The first time in 40,000 years that humans had gathered in one place. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. "Now we decide our future," Morrison said. "The Coalition has given us 3 worlds to choose from. All of them are habitable. All of them are empty. We pick one and we start building." That night, all 7 captains met in a conference room. Morrison Cruz from the Columbia, Chen from the Defiant, Gregory Walsh from the Discovery, Patricia Hayes from the Constitution, Kevin Turner from the Enterprise, and Diana Foster from the Freedom. 7 people who carried the weight of humanity's future. Ambassador Lith showed them images of the 3 worlds. The first was cold, mostly tundra and ice. The second was hot, deserts and canyons. The third was temperate, forests and oceans and mountains. It looked almost like Earth. "The third one," Diana Foster said immediately. "It looks like home." The others nodded. It was unanimous. The Coalition recorded their choice. The world had no name yet. That would be up to the humans to decide. But before they could discuss names, alarms started screaming throughout the station. Commander Thren burst into the room. Her scales were flashing red. "Danger colors. We have multiple contacts," she said urgently. "Unknown ships emerging from FTL, 15 vessels. They are broadcasting a message. They want the humans." Morrison felt ice in his stomach. "Who are they?" "Krevtak supremacy," Thren said. "They are a xenophobic faction. They hate aliens. They hate the idea of different species mixing. And they especially hate humans." "Why?" Chen demanded. "We never did anything to them." "You inspired the other species to fight the precursors," Ambassador Lith said as she entered the room. "The Krevtak wanted the precursors to win. They wanted to serve them. They see humanity as the reason the precursors fell. They want revenge." A voice crackled over the communication system. It sounded harsh and angry. "Coalition forces, this is War Master Kreth. You harbor the human abominations. Surrender them immediately or face destruction." High Chancellor Vexus appeared on a holographic display. His crystalline body glowed with anger. "The Coalition does not surrender refugees, War Master. Leave immediately or we will defend ourselves, then you will die with them," Kreth replied. The communication cut off. Morrison looked at the tactical display. 15 Krevtak warships against 8 Coalition vessels. The Coalition was outnumbered. They would lose. And when they lost, the humans would die. "We need to run," Kevin Turner said. "Get the human ships out of here." "We cannot run," Morrison said quietly. "Our ships are too slow. The Krevtak would catch us in hours, and the Coalition vessels would be destroyed trying to cover our escape." "So what do we do?" Patricia Hayes asked. "Just wait to die?" "No," Morrison said. His voice was hard. "We fight." Everyone stared at him. "Fight," Gregory Walsh said. "Our ships have no weapons. We are survey vessels." "We have the element of surprise," Morrison countered. "The Krevtak have never fought humans. They do not know our tactics. They do not know how we think. That gives us an advantage." Commander Thren looked at him. "Captain Morrison, you are proposing to fight modern warships with survey vessels. That is suicide, maybe," Morrison said. But if we do nothing, we die anyway. At least this way we go down fighting. At least this way we remind the galaxy what humans are capable of." The other captains looked at each other. Then one by one they nodded. Lisa Chen smiled grimly. "Always wanted to die in battle. Beats dying in bed." Ambassador Lith stepped forward. "The coalition will not let you fight alone. We will stand with you. That is what allies do." Morrison felt his throat tighten. "Thank you. That means more than you know." The human captains ran back to their ships. They had no weapons, but they had chemical rockets. They had nuclear reactors. They had human ingenuity. And they had nothing left to lose. Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty. His crew was at their stations. They all knew this was probably their last day alive. But nobody looked scared. They looked determined. "Ready, all human ships," Morrison broadcast. "This is Captain Morrison. Today we fight. Not for Earth. Earth is gone. We fight for each other. We fight to show the galaxy that humanity is not finished. We fight because that is what we do. We survive, we endure, and we never ever surrender." The responses came back one by one. "Liberty, this is Columbia. We are with you. Liberty, this is Discovery. Ready to fight. Liberty, this is Defiant. Let us show them what humans can do." The Krevtok fleet advanced, their weapons charged. They expected an easy victory, expected the humans to run or surrender. They did not expect what happened next. The 7 human ships broke formation. They scattered in different directions, using their chemical rockets to change course unpredictably. The Krevtok targeting computers could not track them. The humans were too erratic, too random, too human. Morrison grinned. He felt alive for the first time in months. "All right, people. Let us remind the galaxy why the precursors feared us. All ships execute Plan Crazy." Sarah Bennett laughed from her station. "Plan Crazy. Only humans would name a battle plan that the Liberty dove toward the nearest Krevtok ship." Morrison pushed the engines to maximum. The hull started shaking. Alarms screamed, but he did not slow down. At the last second, he fired all thrusters at once. The Liberty spun sideways, venting atmosphere and reactor coolant directly at the Krevtok vessel. The coolant was radioactive. It fouled the Krevtok sensors. The ship went blind. Before it could recover, a coalition cruiser hit it with a full weapons barrage. The Krevtok ship exploded. Morrison looked at his crew. They were cheering. "One down," he said. 14 to go. All around the battlefield, human ships were causing chaos. The Columbia rammed a Krevtok vessel at full speed, her reinforced hull punching through their shields. Both ships were destroyed, but the Columbia crew had evacuated first. The Discovery overloaded her reactor and used it as a bomb. The Constitution used her survey drones as kinetic missiles. The humans were fighting like nothing the Krevtok had ever seen. No rules, no honor, no sanity, just pure desperate creativity. And it was working. On his flagship, War Master Kreth watched his fleet fall apart. He had expected an easy victory. Instead, he was losing to primitive ships with chemical rockets. Losing to humans. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships retreat. These creatures are insane." The Krevtok fleet turned and fled. They jumped to FTL and disappeared. Morrison watched them go. Then he looked at his crew. They had survived. Against all odds. Against impossible enemies, they had survived. "Liberty, this is Chancellor Vexus. That was the most reckless, dangerous, insane display of combat tactics I've ever witnessed. It was also brilliant." "You have our respect," Morrison smiled. "Thank you, Chancellor. Just doing what humans do best. Surviving." Later, after the damage was assessed and the casualties counted, the survivors gathered. 4 human ships were destroyed, but 218 humans had survived. They had evacuated before their ships were lost. The coalition had taken casualties too, but they had won. Morrison stood with the other captains. They looked at the images of their new world. The world they would name. The world where humanity would begin again. "What should we call it?" Diana Foster asked. Morrison thought about Earth, about the billions who died, about the 40,000 years lost, about the desperate fight they just survived. And he knew the answer. "Hope," he said. "We call it hope. Because that is what we carry. Hope that tomorrow will be better. Hope that humanity will continue. Hope that we will never forget where we came from, but we will build something beautiful where we are going." The others nodded. Hope. It was a good name, a human name. And as the survivors looked at their new world, they felt something they had not felt in a long time. They felt ready. Ready to begin again. Ready to rebuild. Ready to show the galaxy that humanity was not just a legend. They were real. They were here. And they were home. The planet they called Hope had beautiful sunsets. Captain Jake Morrison stood on a hill watching the orange and purple sky. Behind him, the settlement was growing. Prefabricated buildings from the Coalition, crops in the fields, children playing. Human children. The first human children born in 40,000 years. 5 years had passed since the battle with the Krevtak. 5 years of hard work, building homes, planting food, creating a new civilization from nothing. It was not easy. There were problems every day. Equipment broke. People argued. Resources were limited, but they were making progress slowly. Steadily, they were building a future. Sarah Bennett climbed the hill to join him. She had dirt under her fingernails. Her hair was tied back. She looked tired but happy. They had gotten married 2 years ago. A small ceremony with the whole settlement watching. Now she was pregnant, the first natural pregnancy on Hope. Their child would be born here. Would grow up here, would be the first true citizen of this new world. Beautiful sunset, she said, taking his hand. Morrison squeezed her hand gently. Yeah. Almost as beautiful as Earth. Almost. They stood in silence for a moment, thinking about the world they lost, the world they would never see again, but also thinking about the world they were building, this new Earth, this hope. The genetic repository is working well, Sarah said. Dr. Collins says we can start the first artificial births next year. That will bring us up to 500 humans within a decade, 1,000 within 20 years. Morrison nodded. Good. We need the population growth. 218 people is not enough for long-term survival. We need genetic diversity. We need numbers. We will get there, Sarah said confidently. It will take time. Maybe centuries. But we will rebuild. We will become a real civilization again. A child ran past them, a little girl about 6 years old. She was chasing a butterfly. Her name was Emma. She was born on the Columbia during the long journey home. She did not remember Earth. She had never seen Earth. For her, Hope was home. This was the only world she knew. Morrison watched her play. That is our future, he said quietly. Not us, not our generation. But them, the children, they will grow up here. They will have children of their own. And their children will have children. And one day, thousands of years from now, there will be billions of humans again. And they will look back at us and remember that we refused to give up, that we survived. Commander Thren approached from the settlement. Her scales were a peaceful green color. She visited Hope often. She said she liked watching the humans build, liked seeing the progress. She had become a good friend to Morrison. A reminder that humanity was not alone in the galaxy. Captain Morrison, she said, a ship just arrived from Coalition space. They have news. Morrison felt his stomach tighten. Good news or bad news? Good news, Thren said with a smile. Very good news. The Coalition Council has granted humans full membership. You are no longer refugees. You are citizens. Full citizens with all rights and protections. Morrison felt tears in his eyes. Full citizenship. That meant protection. Trade agreements. Access to Coalition technology. It meant humanity was officially part of the galactic community again. Not as legends. Not as ghosts. But as real people with a real place in the galaxy. Thank you, he said to Thren. Thank you for everything you have done for us. Thren's scales shifted to a warm gold. You earned it, Captain. You fought for your survival. You built a new home. You showed the galaxy that humanity deserves to exist. We are honored to have you as members of the Coalition. That night, the settlement had a celebration. Everyone gathered in the main square. They had music, dancing, food. The Coalition had sent supplies. Real meat, real vegetables, not the synthetic stuff from the ships. For one night, they could forget about the hard work, forget about the losses, forget about the 40,000 years. They could just be happy. Captain Lisa Chen found Morrison in the crowd. She had a drink in her hand. Her face was flushed with alcohol and joy. She raised her glass. A toast, she called out. Everyone quieted down. To Earth, the world we lost. May we never forget. To Earth, everyone repeated. Glasses clinked. Some people cried. But they were good tears. Tears of memory. Tears of respect. Chen raised her glass again. And to hope, the world we found. May we build something beautiful here, something worth remembering. To hope, the crowd cheered. Morrison looked around at the faces, old faces and young faces, tired faces and happy faces, human faces, his people. The last survivors of a dead species, but they were not dead. They were alive. They were here, and they were building. Later, very late, Morrison walked to the edge of the settlement. There was a memorial there, a simple stone monument with names carved into it. The names of everyone who died in the precursor wars. Billions of names. It had taken 3 years to carve them all, but it was important. Important to remember. Important to honor. At the top of the monument was one name larger than the others. Earth. The home world. The mother planet. Gone but not forgotten. Morrison put his hand on the cold stone. I wish you could see this, he whispered. See what we built. See that we survived. We lost so much, but we kept going. Just like you taught us. We never gave up, a sound behind him. Ambassador Lith had followed him to the memorial. She stood beside him, looking at the names. They would be proud of you, she said softly. All of them. They would see what you accomplished and they would be proud. Morrison looked at her. Do you really think so? Lith nodded. I know so. You took the worst tragedy imaginable and you turned it into hope. You took extinction and you turned it into survival. That is the most human thing possible. That is what makes your species special, not your technology, not your weapons, your spirit. Your refusal to accept defeat. Morrison smiled. The precursors tried to kill that spirit. They tried to prove it could be destroyed, and they failed, Lith said. Because that spirit lives in every human, in you, in your wife, in that little girl chasing butterflies, in every child that will be born on this world. The precursors destroyed Earth, but they could not destroy humanity, because humanity is not a place. It is an idea. Morrison looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was still spinning, dead and cold, a monument to destruction. But here on Hope, life was growing. Humanity was growing. The cycle was continuing, years passed. The settlement grew into a town. The town grew into a city. More children were born. The genetic programs expanded. Humans spread across the planet, building new settlements, new cities, new lives. Morrison grew old. His hair turned completely gray. His body got weaker. But he was happy. He lived to see his daughter born, lived to see her grow up, lived to see her have children of her own. His grandchildren, the third generation on Hope. On his last day, Morrison lay in bed surrounded by family. Sarah held his hand. His daughter sat beside him. His grandchildren played in the corner. Outside the window, he could see the city. Thousands of people living and working, building and creating, surviving. Commander Thren visited one final time. Her scales were very pale now. She was old too. They had grown old together. Friends across species, allies across the stars. Thank you, Morrison whispered. For everything. Thren touched his hand with her tentacle. Thank you, Captain, for showing us what hope looks like. For teaching us that extinction is not inevitable. That survival is always possible if you refuse to give up. Morrison closed his eyes. He thought about Earth, about the journey, about the impossible survival, about the new world they built. And he smiled. They tried to end us, he said quietly, but we refused. We survived, and we always will. Those were his last words. Captain Jake Morrison, the man who brought humanity back from extinction, died peacefully surrounded by the future he built. He was buried at the memorial, his name carved beside Earth. A final honor for a man who carried his world in his heart. Centuries passed. Hope grew into a thriving planet, humans numbered in the millions, then billions. They spread to other worlds, built new colonies, joined the galactic community not as refugees but as equals. They brought their culture, their art, their music, their stories, and most importantly, they brought their spirit. The human spirit that refused to accept defeat. Other species learned from them, learned that survival was possible even when everything seemed lost, learned that hope was a choice, learned that the future was built by those who refused to give up. 10,000 years after the Liberty appeared on that forgotten monitoring station, humanity was strong again. Not as strong as they were before Earth fell, but strong, growing, thriving. They had not forgotten Earth. Every child learned about the blue and green world, about the billions who died, about the precursor wars, about the 7 ships and the desperate survival. But they also learned about hope, about the first settlement, about Captain Morrison and the survivors who refused to let humanity die. They learned that extinction was not inevitable, that survival was possible, that the future belonged to those who fought for it. In the great library on Hope, there was a room dedicated to the beginning, to the time when humans were just legends, when they were ghosts in the dark. When a single ship appeared on radar and changed everything, children visited that room on school trips. They looked at the images of the 7 ships. They read the stories of the captains. They learned about the battle against the Krevtak. They studied the founding of the first